In one of my previous videos, I talked about the popular YouTube SMP HERMITCRAFT and what I would do if I were part of it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fit all of my ideas into one video, so here is part 2. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is KJ Whippy, and welcome back to What If I Joined HERMITCRAFT. Now, I'm realizing that turning this into a series is definitely way better for my own mental health, because trying to squeeze all that into one video not only would be super stressful for me, but also would just be really annoying for all you guys, because then you'd have like an hour-and-a-half long video to watch. Which, hey, maybe some of you wouldn't hate that, considering my most viewed video is 2.5 hours long. But as I mentioned in the last episode, as we built our starter home, this was actually going to be expanded eventually into a giant, tall, whimsical-shaped tower that is going to have all these cool, different block palettes and all sorts of different shapes to it. And I'm really excited to get to that, as we're going to be starting some of that in today's video. Probably not finishing it. This may be a 3-parter series. I don't really know. But we also made a cool little fishing hut and kind of fish market area over on this side of the build as well. Oh, and of course, how can I forget the lovely flower field we created? I actually still really love this. I can't believe it's come out as nicely as it has. But as I had mentioned in the previous video as well, we've still got quite a few things that I want to build, including the barn area for all of my animals, as well as my automatic chicken farm, some storage silos for all of my crops that are going to be planted around the edges of the island here, and of course this lovely bridge and my main storage area in that building there. I've got quite a lot to do, so let's get started. But in case you missed the first episode, consider checking that out with the link in the description or the card in the top right. And I think the best place to start would probably be with this bridge, kind of get us into a bit of a building mood. And I guess I would probably try to just use the same kind of block palette that's with my main house, as, you know, it's part of the same kind of structure area, so I would want it to be roughly on par with how the rest of my build is, you get it. Now, like I had mentioned in the previous episode, I want to make sure that things are staying in line with the timeline of the server, and because the server was started in 1.20, there was access to the chiseled bookshelves, which I'm going to be using here to kind of detail the flooring of the bridge, which already is looking really nice. I'm actually a big fan of that. But also, they had a data pack that added all of the tough variants and all the copper variants from the 1.21 trial chamber release. And we're just going to be kind of making sure that I maintain that ideology, I think, a bit more. So far, I think I've done okay with it, but there have been a lot of places where I'm like, oh, I could use the shelves for this, but they weren't a thing at that point in time. So realistically, nah. I think that's a really good arch so far. Let's see how it looks when I've got multiple. I like it. I do think it's missing something, and it could just straight up be that these are too low there, so I might have this arch. Ooh, wait, yeah, I could have this arch across on each of these, and then I could fill in the roof with, like, moss or something. Yeah. You know what? I don't really like it. If they had moss stairs, I think it would work, but it's too blocky. It's too harsh. Yeah, too harsh. Don't like it. Kill it. Kill it with fire. Burn it all. While I try to figure out what block I want to use for that, let's go ahead and start working on the supports that are going to be going under the water. Perfect. I think that looks great. It's a very solid bridge, got a bit of a dam kind of feel to it, and I'm going to remove this beautiful stone bridge. I hate to remove something of such beauty, but I just, it's just not quite fitting the vibe that I'm looking for. Whoever built that, I'm sorry. And it's kind of nice too, because while I was thinking about maybe I should arch this bridge because boats could travel and stuff, because this river does travel all the way through and goes around here, and it goes into this big open water area where I do have docks set up over there, but this water gets very thinned out over here, and it looks like it was actually artificially mined out anyway. So, I mean, this water here gets connected anyway, but like, there's no reason to pass through here. You can just go around this way anyway. So it kind of just works out. So I think it's good. Now, interestingly enough, I'm actually thinking of prismarine for this. I feel like that might be the strongest way to do this. So I guess let me see if I can figure out a way to... Oh, yeah, see, that's already a really good arch instead of just the regular blocky mess that the moss was. Yeah, beautiful. That is such a better choice of block, just because I can have the greenish color to it, but it also has all of the slabs. That makes this just way better. So good job, me. Thanks, me. Now let's go ahead and get ourselves some extra detailing up on this bad boy and hopefully call it good. Now, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I want to try to work with building techniques that I haven't really worked with before. And one of those is using hanging signs as railing. And I think it actually works out pretty nice because the fences actually line up perfectly with the top of the hanging sign. So it actually makes a really nice, like, kind of railing and support beam kind of setup there. So I'm not sure what I'm doing with it aside from that, but, you know. The only problem is I have to, like, weird, like, move fast and spam press escape and right click at the same time just so I can make sure that I'm placing a bunch of them properly. And it's a little tedious, little taxing on the brain, because it's like, okay, make sure I don't right-click too soon, because then I'll edit a sign, but then make sure that I'm right-clicking fast enough so that we don't miss a block. It's very frustrating, but I think that actually has come out really nicely. So I'm wondering if having little details like that might make it look a little bit better, and I don't think it does. I don't think it quite does. And then we could have these fences going up from the wall blocks against the edge, so that way we get that extra little bit of depth. Then we can put trapdoors on the tops, so that way it kind of solidifies them a bit more, and also attaches them at the very top to the wall. I like a lot. Now, I have gone ahead and moved the lanterns up by one block going along the middle here, just because if I'm running a horse across or whatever, I'm going to be smacking my head on every single lantern that I pass by, and I got enough brain damage as it is. I don't need more. But with that, that wraps up our bridge build, which honestly is looking really, really nice. So that checks off another piece of my build. Heck yeah. Now, I'm remembering that, if I'm not mistaken at least, Pearl, Tango, and I think Etho put together a server-wide mail system. Everybody has a mailbox, and it plays little "you have mail," and it's for people to send things to other people. I don't have a designated space to do that, so I should probably set up a little area for that to be placed. And I'm thinking maybe along here. So what I could do is when I build up the storage area, that big silo that's kind of themed after, I think I said I was going to theme it after Jabba's palace from Star Wars. I'll probably have like a little external piece that kind of sticks out of the side of this little hillside here that helps, helps give some extra detailing to the storage room, but also will be practical in its use for my mailbox. I think that will be a solid strat. So I guess we could just start pathing this out a bit more. I kind of was hoping that I didn't have to make more paths in this episode, but whatever. There we are, that wasn't so bad, I guess. So I guess while we're in the area, let's go ahead and turn our attention towards this little chunk here, where I'm going to have this arch come over this direction here, this little stone arch here, and then my storage room is going to be here. I think it's time we just start diving right in. So I think for this, we're going to stick with the block palettes of the moss and cobblestone for some of the accents. But then we'll have the sandstone and birch planks and stuff kind of gradienting up as like the main walls. I think that will work pretty well. And maybe I can add some andesite towards the top of these, kind of give it a little bit more texture towards the top of it. Yeah, I like that. Now, originally I was going to have this kind of be automated in some way, shape, or form, where I wanted my storage to have like an auto sorter, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I would probably prefer to just have it where I sort it myself. I probably wouldn't have really worried too much about any of that, because it's just kind of a hassle to figure all that out. I wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway. So I'm thinking we get our base with a bunch of the birch, and then it starts going up more into the sandstone. Probably into the regular sandstone first, because that has the most texture on it to kind of help blend it towards that, and then bring it into the smooth. Now I'm thinking an acacia like mid-lining here, so that way it kind of separates the wall from the actual roof chunk, and actually it'll probably look like those silos over there in terms of the roof, just not as pointy. It'll probably be a bit flatter. So I mean, this might actually work out a lot better than I think it will. So we could probably then have this be a couple more blocks, some sand in here, because that's just ever so slightly lighter than the smooth. Yeah, because it's got those white pixels in it. That, yeah, I think that works really nice. Alright, so I've gone ahead and put up all of the walls, and I've also arched the entrances on each side here. These will most likely be just windows that, you know, they're not going to be entrances that are open like this. I feel like these are probably just going to be more like windows. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and just fill these in real quick. There we go. That is much better. And I tried to do a kind of glass gradient along the window here, and I don't know if I like the white or not. I think I might get rid of that. The darker ones aren't as harsh, but the white panes really stand out. So I think I'm going to do that. Maybe reduce how dark this is too. There we go. So now we can hop into the top and get ourselves some blocks to hopefully make a decent roof to this thing. I don't know what color. I'm thinking brown, but I don't want to just go spruce like I always do, you know? I always just run with spruce. Maybe dark oak? That might be too dark, though. Maybe for right now, I could do dark oak as like a border, and then I could maybe do acacia to kind of match the orange that's in the middle there. That might actually work out kind of nicely. Yeah, the orange is not working. I think that this is too much orange. I think spruce is I think it's just the way to go. So let's go around and swap all this out. It's so gross. That is definitely the better call. Now, I don't know how I feel about this little antenna thingy sticking up out the top. This is making it look a lot more sci-fi than I think I really want it to. It's looking like something out of Star Wars, which is, I guess, what I initially said, but I don't think that the rest of my build looks like Star Wars, so I need to figure out what I'm doing with this. And I guess a safe call would be to just remove that entirely and possibly just do some funky little action here with some trapdoors. So that way we still have the dark oak vibe there, but it's still... Yeah, I mean, now it just looks like a propeller cap. Hold on. There we go. That's a little bit better. And I think another way that I can make this feel like it fits the vibe of the area a bit better is possibly adding some more of these darker wood elements along the sides. So maybe I could start texturing up with like some of the spruce. Maybe come up along here and add some stairs and fences and stuff to kind of just add a little bit of extra detailing. Alright, so I took the time to go ahead and just kind of finish off the extra details of this building, and I'm not sure it's quite done just yet, but I think it's at a place where I can be pretty happy with it. And honestly, the extra little spruce detailing along the outside really does help this feel like it fits more into that kind of rustic vibe of my other builds. And if we go into the interior, you'll see that there is plenty of space for storage all along here. So what I would assume I would do is probably have different item frames and stuff along the chests to mark what's what, and I have plenty of space for like bulk storage because I know that I would need a lot of stones and a lot of woods and stuff like that, so I would be doing everything that I can to try and make sure that that is accounted for when I'm making my storage area. But ultimately, I think this has turned out super, super cool. And it is a little bright in comparison to the rest of the builds, as they are very dark with some browns and blacks in the builds. And this actually, I don't think has a single black block in it, but it's still a good looking build. And I do have, you may have noticed in the center, there was a door. And this is actually, once I have Elytra, I can just yoink right up, zoom out, and start flying away. Not really sure what else I was going to put in the center there. Maybe I was going to do some kind of, like, storage silo sort of mechanism where it's like the hoppers recognize how much stuff is inside and there would be redstone lamps and stuff. I don't really feel like doing that, and especially squeezing that into this tiny space for all 8 sets of chests. Like, it just doesn't feel like a possible thing, for at least for my little tiny brain. I'm a little stupid, so... But yeah, the storage building is pretty much done. Now, I'm probably going to copy the same build palette and put a similar building here for the mailbox, which actually I should probably make sure I do now before I forget, and then come back to it later and be like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that. So let me do that real quick. Sweet. So it looks like this area over here, for right now at least, is pretty much done. Now, I might consider going in and adding a bunch more flowers. I do like the idea of these grassy areas in between the builds having a lot of flowers, kind of similar to this big flower field over there. But I do know that I'm also going to be having crops around everywhere, so I might also just straight up have where there's just a lot of crops around instead. Because, I mean, pretty much everybody this season had big crop plots. I mean, there's one there, there's one there. I'm pretty sure Green had one, Scar had one, Gem had one, I think Pearl had a bunch. People really like their wheat fields. But now I think it's time we take our attention back towards where the main house is and start building up our extensions of the ever-rising building. I'm very excited to get started on this because the more I've looked at this, the more I really hate this roof shape. It is so... it feels so unbalanced and just not good. So I'm very much ready to make sure that this roof completely changes. So I'm ready for that. But I think how I'm going to start this is I'm actually going to begin here and build this arch that connects to the house. And hopefully I'm able to pull off something cool. But I'm probably going to stick with the usual... Oh, I never put stairs there to make that not have a visible thingy. There we go. But yeah, going to be using a lot of the same structure blocks at the very least to make sure that this is on theme with the rest of the house. So let's go ahead and get started on this, and hopefully we'll have something cool to put together. I think that's a decent height for like the minimum of the arch. I think that'll work fine. Now it's just a matter of getting that angle right. I want it to be an even arch. I don't want it to like slant and then come up. I want it to be a nice equal arc on both sides. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do that. But I think this part of the build will probably be best done in the form of a time-lapse. So in the famous words of one of the people that were part of this server, let's go into super fast build mode and see what we can do. And so, we have completed our expansion of our beginner house. And quite honestly, I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, and you may notice I've removed the windows from the roof there. I did not like how those were. It looked too blank, and it also was not centered with the windows that were down here. And I'm also realizing this looks like a really big frowny face. So that's not entirely intentional, but it's kind of funny that that's happened. But yeah, this is kind of what we've got here. I really played into a lot of the moss with the mossy cobble and cobblestone going into here. We've brought that all the way up into some smooth stone going into this area here, so it's like completely smoothed out. And I'm really happy with that, and also happy with the choice of the roof for this spot here, as well as the crimson logs. I know that in the previous one, I tried to fit those in to this area here, and it didn't quite work, and I'm really happy that I've managed to get them to fit in here. That really does just look like a frowny face. There's a little nose, there's his eyes, his little sad eyebrows, and a big old sad face. Huh. And coming around here, I do have some more windows out here, but these are a little bit too bright. So I think what I may do is I may just put in some black concrete behind and hopefully just call it there, because it's too bright here. Yeah, I don't know how I quite feel about it. I might adjust this later. I'm not entirely sure. But we do also have this big window here that kind of leads into this big hallway, and I realize I haven't really done anything proper with the inside yet. I will, I promise. That'll be an episode all of its own, because that's going to take more time, I think, than building the outside did. But overall, I am incredibly happy with how this has turned out so far. And I am very excited to see how I can expand this next. Now, it is very much leaning in this direction, so I think in the next one, I'll probably have... I could probably have something kind of, like, peek out of this kind of chunk here. And I'm thinking of, like, almost kind of in the style of, like, a whimsical, like, wizard tower where it kind of curves up. I might do that. I'm not entirely sure exactly how I'm going to do that just yet, but I am very happy with how this is looking so far. And I did remove those blocks there just because I don't think the arch is going to be in a good spot here. I may do it here instead, or I might do it further back over here, maybe in this chunk, or even just like coming across over here to kind of separate off the fish market from the actual house area. But yeah, this is looking genuinely super, super good, and I'm actually so satisfied with how this has turned out. And even these dangling lanterns throughout the archway here, I mean, I have tried to put in as much as I can to make sure that this is looking as good as possible. And yeah, I'm aware that, you know, these don't quite line up with the other building over here, but genuinely, I think it still fits very well, and unless you're explicitly looking for it, it doesn't really stand out. So I'm pretty happy with that. But that is going to do it for part 2 of What If I Joined HERMITCRAFT Season 10. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you all being here. I understand that this was a very build-heavy video, and it will continue to be in the next one. Yeah, I kind of didn't stray away from this area at all just because I really wanted to get to building over here. It was looking too much like a starter base, and it was time that we get it started as an actual big base. And I think so far it is definitely turning out exactly how I like. So definitely going to keep going. Definitely excited to see how it continues. Once we get these silos built up, I may make these silos in the same block palette as the storage place just because it's associated with storage, and it will also kind of balance out this darker building in the middle surrounded by these lighter buildings around. These are the more I look at these, the more I'm actually really enjoying these. I have to admit, I'm really starting to enjoy these. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video, so thank everybody so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and if you really enjoyed, consider subscribing. I also want to say another quick thank you to the channel members that have stuck around so long. I appreciate you guys, and I promise that I'll be getting some stuff ready for members only soon. I promise. And finally, I also wanted to quickly say that if any of the hermits end up watching this series, thank you so much for all the cool stuff that you guys do and for being such an inspiration to so many creators such as myself. I appreciate y'all. You guys are great. And also, if you're ever looking for a silly guy to join the server, I mean, I'm pretty silly. Next time, we will hopefully finish a majority of the builds around here, expand this out a bit more to make it all big and shiny and cool, and hopefully we can get ourselves maybe to play some mini games too, because I know that there are a lot of those around the server, and there are a particular few that I would like to try out, so that'd be cool. Maybe I'll even get friends to play with me. But yes, thank you already so much, and until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you later. Bye!